The pink moon is not unusual because of its color. It is unusual because of how easily people misunderstand it. Every year, the name tricks people into expecting a spectacle in the sky, and every year, a lot of them miss the better part of the moment because they are waiting for something theatrical instead of meeting the night with intention. This one arrives right at the opening of April, at the edge of spring, with a split in the calendar depending on where you live. In some places, it peaks late on April 1st. In others, it belongs to April 2nd. That alone should tell you something. This is not a lazy, decorative full moon that sits in the background while you carry on the same way. This is a checkpoint, a reset of attention, a night that rewards people who arrive organized instead of impressed. Before anything else, get one thing straight in your own mind. The pink moon is not pink. If you go into this expecting a rare colored moon, you begin the whole experience on the wrong foot. The name comes from moss phlox, one of the early spring flowers that bloom in pink tones across parts of North America around this time of year. That matters more than people think because the name is seasonal, not visual. It belongs to a cycle of return, thaw, growth, and re-entry. It also carries the Paschal association because the first full moon on or after March 21st has a role in determining Easter. So even before you make this personal, the night already carries history, calendar weight, and seasonal meaning. It is tied to how people have measured time, farming, ritual, and spring itself. That is a better place to begin than hype. If you understand what you are looking at, you stop treating the night like a random mood and start treating it like a marker. The first thing you need to do before this full moon is check your exact local timing and stop speaking about it vaguely. A lot of people say they will do something tomorrow night or when the moon is full, and that kind of loose planning is exactly why the moment slips past them. The peak comes at roughly 2:11 UTC on April 2nd, 2026, which means the local experience changes depending on where you are. For many people in North America, the moon reaches fullness on the late evening of April 1st. For viewers elsewhere, it will read more clearly as April 2nd. Do not leave that unclear. Look up your city. Check the local moonrise. Know whether your best viewing window is the evening of the 1st, the early hours of the 2nd, or both. It sounds simple, and that is the point. Precision changes how you show up. Once you know the actual time, the event stops being background scenery and becomes a real appointment. It moves from, "I'll see if I catch it," to, "I know when I'm meeting it." The second thing is to decide where you will see it from before the day gets away from you. Do not assume you will figure it out in the moment. Nights like this get wasted by indecision. You look out the window, the view is blocked, the roof is locked, the building lights are too strong, the horizon is hidden, and suddenly the hour is gone. Pick the place in advance: a balcony, a rooftop, a quiet street with an open eastern view, a field edge, a park, a hill, even a parking lot if that is what gives you sky. What matters is not romance. What matters is visibility. When the moon is low near the horizon, that is often when it feels biggest and carries that warm, golden tone people remember. The Old Farmer's Almanac points to that horizon rise as the best view moment and connects it with the familiar moon illusion that makes it seem larger than usual. That means your place matters. If you want this night to land properly, do not improvise the stage. Choose it while your mind is still calm. The third thing is one of the most overlooked, and it is the part that will make this whole experience feel less shallow than the usual full moon routine. Learn the names of this moon before you stand under it. Learn them properly. Pink moon, Paschal moon, egg moon, breaking ice moon, budding moon. These names are not decoration. They tell you how human beings in different traditions understood what this time of year meant. One name comes from wildflowers, another from the spring religious calendar, others from thawing rivers, new shoots, eggs, migration, and the return of movement after winter. If you take 5 minutes to sit with those names before moonrise, your relationship with the night changes. It stops being one more trend-driven moon event and starts feeling linked to weather, land, farming, memory, and timekeeping. That is a very different kind of attention. And attention is the whole game here. People talk a lot about energy, but attention is what actually changes the quality of an experience. If you walk into the night knowing the names, you are no longer just looking at a full moon. You are standing inside a spring marker that people have been naming for generations. The fourth thing you need to do is finish one unfinished practical task before you go out to watch it. 1. Not 6. Not a giant reinvention. 1 open loop. Reply to the email you keep avoiding. Send the document, pay the bill, book the appointment. Put the thing back where it belongs. Return the item that has been sitting in your car for 10 days. Close one piece of drag in your life before the moonrise hour arrives. There is a reason I am putting this here. A lot of people go into nights like this hoping to receive a message while carrying a trail of loose ends behind them. Then they wonder why they feel scattered. The problem is not the sky. The problem is unfinished business leaking into the experience. A single completed task does something powerful to the mind. It changes your posture. It sends the signal that tonight is not being added on top of chaos. Tonight is being entered on purpose. And because the pink moon is tied to spring, reset, and the first full moon after the equinox threshold, this tiny act matters more than a dramatic speech ever could. Close one open loop, earn the hour. The fifth thing is to clear one physical zone that has started reflecting the wrong version of you. I am not talking about an all-night cleaning spree. I am talking about one visible place that keeps broadcasting delay, clutter, indecision, or fatigue. A desk, a bedside table, a kitchen corner, a bag, a shelf, your desktop screen, your notes app, your planning board. Something you see all the time. Clean it before the full moon. Empty it. Reorder it. Throw things away. Remove what no longer deserves space. Full moons have a way of making people think only in emotional terms, and that is why so many of those nights blur together. Real preparation leaves a mark in the visible world. If your environment still looks like the same old backlog, then your night will probably feel the same too. But when one zone is reset before moonrise, the shift becomes concrete. You can see it. And that matters because spring is not an abstract idea. Spring is visible. Buds push through. Ice breaks. Light stays longer. Things return. Let your space show the same movement. If you clear one place properly, the night already begins to mean more before the moon even appears. The sixth thing is to make a one-page spring audit. Do not turn this into a performance. Keep it plain. 1 page, 3 short sections. In the first, write what has actually grown since the start of the year. Not what you hoped would grow. What did? A habit, a skill, a connection, a new level of discipline, more patience, better taste, stronger judgment, steadier work. In the second, write what has stalled. Where have you been circling, postponing, or half showing up? In the third, write what has been taking space without giving anything back. That last section matters the most. It cuts through fantasy quickly. The reason this page belongs before the pink moon is because the season itself is a comparison between what is alive and what only looks busy. Spring exposes that difference. Growth is real. So is wasted space. When you put those three lists in front of yourself, the month of April stops being a vague hope and starts becoming a test of how honestly you can read your own life. Do not make it poetic. Make it accurate. Accuracy is far more useful than inspiration on a night like this. The seventh thing is the one I most want you to carry into April, because it can outlast the moonrise itself. Write one rule for the month ahead. One rule, and make it hard enough to matter. Not a wish, not a mood, not a dream board sentence. A rule. It could shape your time, your money, your standards, your relationships, your attention, your work, your phone use, your mornings, your evenings, your yes, your no. It should be simple enough to remember and strong enough to change your behavior. This matters because a lot of people approach full moons hoping to feel transformed while keeping their daily operating system exactly the same. That is why the glow fades by breakfast. A rule changes that. A rule travels. A rule follows you into the next day and the day after that. A rule gives the moon somewhere to land. And since this full moon sits right at the front door of April, that is the better question to bring to it. Not, what do I want this moon to give me? Ask instead, what rule am I ready to live under once this month begins? If you can answer that honestly, the night has already done useful work. Now, when you put those 7 moves together, something interesting happens. The experience stops being built on hype and starts being built on readiness. You know the timing. You know the place. You know the true meaning of the name. You have closed one loose end. You have reset one part of your space. You have reviewed what has grown, what has stalled, and what has been draining your room. You have written one rule for April. Look at how different that is from the usual way people drift into a full moon. Usually the night arrives first and thought comes later. Here it is the other way around. You arrive shaped for the night. That changes everything. It changes how you look, what you notice, what you remember, and what you carry forward after the sky goes bright. There is another detail worth holding on to as you move toward April 1st and 2nd. A full moon is a specific astronomical event, but it never behaves like a switch that only matters for 1 minute. Time and date notes that the moon appears full on the days before and after peak illumination. NASA's moon phase material also reminds us that a full moon rises around sunset and stays visible through the night. That means you do not need to trap yourself in one narrow fantasy of the moment. Yes, the exact peak matters. Yes, the timing is real. But if clouds pass through, if your horizon is bad, if you miss the first rise and catch it later, the night is not lost. What matters is not perfection. What matters is whether you came prepared enough to use the night at all. That is another reason I wanted this approach to be practical. Weather changes. Plans shift. The sky does not care about your ideal setup. Preparation gives you flexibility. If the moon is hidden at 1 hour and clear at the next, you are still ready. If the rising view is blocked, you can step out later. If you can only catch it the night after, it will still look full enough to matter. That steadiness is better than drama. There is also a seasonal reason this full moon hits differently from one that falls in the middle of a settled stretch of the year. April is not neutral ground. It is the month where signs of return become obvious enough that pretending not to see them takes effort. The names attached to this moon prove that. Budding, eggs, thaw, shoots, red grass, navigable streams. Even the Paschal naming ties the moon to timing, sequence, and the ordering of a larger calendar. Everything about it points toward emergence, not stasis. That makes this a poor night for vague longing and a strong night for disciplined preparation. You do not have to be mystical to understand that. Seasonal events have always shaped the way people think, plan, travel, plant, worship, and measure change. The better way to respect that is not to overstate the event. It is to meet it with enough seriousness that the date leaves a mark on how you enter the month that follows. I also want to say something important about what not to do before this moon. Do not turn the night into a crowded content experience. Do not spend the whole day absorbing other people's interpretations until you can no longer hear your own judgment. Do not collect 20 meanings from 20 strangers and then show up too full of borrowed language to notice what the sky is actually doing. There is a difference between learning and stacking noise. Do your research, yes. Know the timing, yes. Understand the history, yes. Then pull back. Let the night have some room around it. A full moon at the beginning of spring already carries enough context on its own. It does not need 10 layers of panic, trend language, or second-hand certainty. Give yourself one cleaner experience, fewer inputs, better observation, better memory of the night. And when the moon actually rises, do not treat the moment like a test you have to pass emotionally. You do not need tears. You do not need a revelation. You do not need a dramatic sign. Sometimes the best nights leave a stronger mark because they are plain. You go out. The air is cooler than you expected. The light feels heavier. The moon clears the horizon. The scale of it catches you for a second. You remember the flower it was named for. You remember that this same moon helped organize religious calendars and spring naming traditions. You remember your one closed task, your cleared space, your one-page audit, your one rule for April. Then the whole thing lands differently, not as entertainment, as alignment between sky, season, and conduct. That is enough, more than enough. There is one more move you can make, and I want to keep it simple. Before you look up, write one sentence that begins with, "By the time this month ends," then stop. Just one sentence. No polishing, no second version. Fold it into your pocket or keep it in your phone, and do not touch it while you watch the moon. Then read it again the next morning. I like this because it gives the night a before and an after, without turning the whole thing into ceremony for ceremony's sake. It also leaves you with a record. You are no longer relying on memory to tell you what the night meant. You put a line down in real time. That line becomes a witness. Months later, it can show you whether you were honest, evasive, ambitious, timid, early, late, or exactly right. That is a far more interesting use of a full moon than saying you had one and then forgetting what changed. If you have noticed, this whole approach keeps asking the same thing from you in different forms. Show up in a way that can be measured. Know the time. Choose the place. Learn the name. Finish the task. Clear the zone. Audit the season. Write the rule. Add the sentence. Every one of those steps creates evidence. That is deliberate. Evidence is what saves a meaningful night from becoming one more blurred idea. And for a date like April 1st to 2nd, 2026, evidence matters. The event itself is real. The clock time is real. The naming tradition is real. The moonrise pattern is real. The horizon effect is real. So if you want your response to be worthy of the event, let it be real too. Leave something behind that proves you are not merely entertained by the sky. By the time this pink moon reaches its brightest point, the interesting question will no longer be whether the moon was impressive. It will be whether you did the work that belonged before it. That is the difference between seeing a full moon and using one. One is visual, the other is directional. One gives you a memory, the other gives you a month that starts with more order than it would have had otherwise. That is why I would rather have you walk into this night with one cleared shelf, one finished task, one written rule, and one honest page than with 1,000 dramatic phrases and nothing to show for them the next morning. So, if you are serious about April, treat the pink moon as a deadline for preparation rather than a stage for reaction. Pick your hour, pick your place, understand the name. Close what has been left open. Remove what has been sitting there too long. Write down what the year has actually done so far. Decide the rule you are willing to live under next. Then walk outside and meet the moon with your part already completed. The sky will do what it was always going to do. The only unresolved piece is you. And when that bright disk lifts into view on April 1st or April 2nd, depending on where you stand, you should not be asking what the night wants from you. You should already know what you brought to it.